Hey everyone, what's cooking? We're back with a video about static electricity and how you can mitigate poor grounding in a computer. Here we have a setup here, the Ryzen 5500 and 2.6 of DDR4 running at 4200 MHz and 4.4 GHz respectively. You've got a 3060 Ti and a VAR USB 3 card. The question is this going to affect our hit reg in Valorant? See if there's any difference here. It's going to be hard to notice, but we're going to be filming this in high FPS without putting it in the case. This is a very scuffed motherboard. It's a B550 gaming from Gigabyte, and it's an S2H board, so it's only got 2 slots of DIMMs, and that's really actually pretty good for stability on the memory overclocking side. But for the actual I/O side, this is one of the worst motherboards that I've seen for I/O stability. All the Gigabyte B550 series motherboards had issues with I/O stability, especially the 4-layer ones. I can play some Valorant. Of course, I could have a stream recorder up, but that will not really help with diagnosing the issue. It's on that one. Kill you and then strafe. Mounted on anything, it's sitting on a piece of foam right now, playing.
One down. 3 down.
Yeah, this is a cake.
4 down.
People are not even looking at me now when I'm shooting them, which is really indicated that you now have some sort of server advantage or have fully resolved any of your input lag. And you know, that seems to be an example. But yeah, your mates will be playing easy mode, say Valorant or CS or Tarkov, and then you're going to be playing the hard mode game somehow. We're doing all low priority except for the single USB card that I have in there for the VL805. A common theme here is that shots are missing or clipping through people when they should be registering as hits or headshots. Probably would be better off putting some sound on for this. Okay, let's get to work.
So close. Next.
I don't know how he's getting those shots off. He just peeked behind the wall before I could shoot. While I'm shooting him, he just teleports away. There you go. There's a little bit of desync. There's certain timing sets on the memory that relieve the desync. This is running 16, 20, 20, 52 on the RAM timings. And at 4200 megahertz, well, 42 is one of the holy numbers of completion. And be specific or not, it is divisible by 3, 4, 5, and 2, and even 7 and 6. So it's one of those perfect numbers where there's barely any prime factors. So for gameplay and flow, 42 is going to be ideal for a clock speed on the lower end of computers. Most CPUs, like the 5000 series, can reach it. If you unify your clocks up on that, it's going to be a good idea. Just in theory here, but yeah, in practice, could be different. At home, I'm running 5 GHz right now. 5.1's getting in troubles with bad grounding. I just got some new screws from work, and they're just chrome-plated screws. There you go. You get some delayed hits on that one. This one's got a full body spray, but there's like 3 shots there that barely register. Okay, here we go. See, I'm firing, you hear the fire sound, and the hit reg sound plays way after. I have 6, 7 shots that went through his body with only 3 or 4 registrations. And this isn't the worst hit reg I've seen. We're going to play this full deathmatch game out so we have a base, and there you go. First examples of this are people just teleporting, like as you turn a corner, they'll appear over here instead of sliding out of the wall. Or they'll hop while shooting, so then they'll strafe back and then shoot, and they'll somehow headshot you. Or they'll strafe, shoot, kill you, and then strafe. There's a lot of delay on this. Here's the thing, Valorant, pretty much every setting in this game will change the hit reg, but I think I've narrowed it down to the point where I can safely say it's cured for, even though people in my last video were saying it would work for a boot or two, and then on the third or fourth boot, it would just stop working. But most of it was just the first and second boot worked fine, and then they'd have to set it again or reseat it again in the BIOS and save all the settings and yada yada. So my question is to myself, is this because of poor grounding? Because with poor grounding, what happens is the background ground potential is raised or fluctuating depending on what you are doing and what you are playing. So if the ground isn't perfectly contacting the ground, say outside your house with a ground rod that's running deep into the earth, or to the utility ground, which is usually the case in an apartment, which is also why a lot of people have issues with apartment ground, then you might have issues. Now, how can you alleviate these possible issues?
You lose.
Many of these can be solved simply by playing on a very humid day. And sometimes that will allow the screw joints to have a bit better contact with the bronze standoffs on your computer. No, there's a really, really bad desync there.
5 kills remaining.
But yeah, so some feelings that you'll get while playing Valorant that you won't get in CSGO is that you're shooting at a target and you are aiming at a point where you mentally know you are aiming, but in the game, it shows as if your bullets are lagging behind the player that you're shooting at. Oh yeah, grounding. Grounding is what we're focusing on today. This is not mounted on anything, it's sitting on a piece of foam right now, playing with a 3060 Ti. Here's the idea, I'm going to get some chromed out screws, and we're going to install them into a case, a Techwear MATX, very nice case. They make really good Omni M cases and has integrated RGB, everything. Really thick sheet metal is what we're looking for here. And let's screw it in and out a few times so that the paint and the powder coating strips off. Alright, so while I don't have any brass standoffs right now left in the store, I have a bit of sandpaper, so I've just sanded down the tops of these screws. And if you notice, they actually make these out of steel these days, so that's really concerning for grounding. A lot of these cases do not adhere to any kind of standard for grounding these days anymore. Back in the day, every case used to be really thick sheet metal and really like brassed and coppered or chromed, and just highly conductive to electricity all around the case. But so now we're going to install this into here and see if we can at least find some chrome screws that will screw into these, because if you look on the inside of these are actually very well machined out. And the receptacles here are in fact raw metal within the screw threads itself. Okay, so now we look at the bottom of the motherboard. You can see that there's a lot of solder bores here that will contact with those motherboard mounts once we screw in the board, and that is going to help us get the ground plane properly up and running, and hopefully conduct some excess voltage down into the case and into the power supply. Alright guys, just make sure your screws are done up properly. If you're doing the PCIe video card or the sound cards or any USB cards, make sure you mush out the copper plate a little bit on the L bracket. Yes, this is actually nickel plated copper of some kind. Most of these should be just mild steel, but some of the larger video cards might make these out of copper for the sake of conductivity. And just do it up, and that should be enough. You don't want to strip the threads out. That's very important that you want the threads still on there, otherwise nothing is going to secure the component. Now same thing here with the motherboard. I can just show you off the bat here. This is while the computer is running, but only because I am experienced enough to not care. Any one of these is just a simple chrome plated screw. This is the hard drive, this is the SSD type screws, or DVD screws as commonly known, and these are just chrome plated or something nickel plated, and they'll just screw straight into the motherboard like that. And you see the crushed solder balls around the edge? That's what you want to see. Just make sure you do these tight enough for every single one of these little screws. You'll see these dotted around the motherboard in all the standard ATX sections, and there's one hiding underneath the video card, and there is one more hiding underneath the video card right there. I don't know if you can see it between the USB card, but yeah, there's usually one there. And this is my home PC, so I'm just doing whatever I want with it. I don't really care. I run it single channel for the sake of even lower input lag, and just for the sake of consistency as well. The performance does suffer a lot, but the matter is your input is a lot smoother, and I feel like my mouse is a lot more consistent. Obviously I can't quantify that, so that's pretty sad, but that's just kind of accuracy kind of deal. So we're just going to do this up tight. Try to get a good camera angle on this as well. But of course, it's pretty hot. Then do this up hand tight, and that's going to be it. We're not going to grab the fat end of the screwdriver for that, or you will probably strip the threads out. So yeah, just be careful. This is a Xiaomi screwdriver, just like everything else like we use here. Alright guys, we've assembled the PC here, and I've got all these chromed up screws in here. I'll give you a look. And so up here, there's a chrome screw here. It's chromed all over the motherboard. There's chrome screws holding in the graphics cards and the USB controller here. So we've got this fully chromed up. There's also chrome screws at the back holding the back panel in, and 4 chrome screws holding the power supply in. And if your case is like 8 screw holes in, you can put 8 of those chrome screws in for extra grounding. So here's my theory. Your power cable is going up here and up here. Now that's the 24 is here, and the 4+4 is up here. Now the problem is, when the board gets larger and taller, you're going to have the ground plane go through a lot of stuff and pick up a lot of interference, and it has to reach a way longer distance to go back to the ground plane on the power supply. So the point of grounding is that now you have a shorter detour that can split the load through, like, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points on the motherboard, or 8 points on an ATX, or even more, and that will all ground through the back plane. So where the mounts are screwed into, which is the back of the PC, and then you put the back shielding on, and that also has to be grounded for the shielding to be really effective. Now that means this entire PC is properly grounded. Yeah, saw teeth over here on the bottom of the screw in a circle, and they'll just catch any of the powder coat or paint and just strip it away, and revealing the middle underneath for some good electrical contact. Now, as for the ATX revisions, well, I don't know if anyone really pays attention to this kind of stuff anymore, but I say it is good practice, and it could be the source of a lot of hidden problems with people complaining about bad grounding. Because obviously you have the outside ground, which would be your power cable. This is 1mm cable. Usually people supply 0.75mm only these days. Make sure that your ground pin is clean, and Vaseline, put a bit of Vaseline on your ground pin in the actual connector itself. Of course on the power supply side, not on the cord side, or you'll electrocute yourself. But yeah, do that. You can plug it in maybe 10, 20, 30 times, and that'll just clean away any of the dirt on the cable itself. So just do that. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. Sometimes you might have even screw holes on the other 4 sides too. I can kind of squeeze another screw into that, so it's just helping ground it out. I also have a ground cable running from this bottom screw here closest to the 3-prong, and that runs all the way up to my USB connector, just because I want as stable of a mouse input as possible. Well, we've got the I/O shield installed as well, and that's somewhat important, I guess, because, you know, USB ports would like to have good grounding. Okay, so now we're going to launch Valorant again and see how much desync we get. This PC I can feel is extremely responsive. And on both instances here, we are running MSI util with low on everything except for the PCIe ports. We're just leaving those, and this is set on high. As you'll know, it's good because your keyboard will start feeling crispy, and the sound is no longer going to be delayed. You won't feel like a drunk bloke walking around the pub at 3 AM on King's Cross at this point. More snappier and controllable. See how easy and effortlessly these headshots are presenting. Ooh, crispy. Okay, didn't have my gun. Hey. See how immediate the sounds are playing? Let's try setting these root ports. I've never tried setting these. I've always left them alone. But I'm feeling that maybe, just maybe, they're actually affecting something here. Wonderful looking little build. Oh, already that feels a lot more precise. Alright, whatever. Let the game do the talking. Oh, look at that. I'm not getting the mouse stutter. I think maybe it was something to do with those, those PCIe root ports. The mouse does freeze on the main screen out of all places, but only on the main screen. I'm suspecting that it's a problem with Vanguard, because it doesn't really do this on any other game that I've seen. Alright, you can also feel if it's good or bad when you spray, and the spray doesn't jump all over the place randomly. Well, if you don't cap your FPS, well, this is the kind of stuff you might see a little bit more of. Ow.
Down and out.
Like this guy's got a bit of advantage going on. As you can see, the sprays are very controllable, and your grounding seems to be better. Desync aside, I think it is settling in the... Check if my cord is still a little bit loose. Okay, let's try now. I'll ground myself as well. It really is the worst case scenario here. We're running off a USB hub that's powered off a 2-prong adapter. Now if I play the next one, it's going to be perfect hit reg. All excess capacitance and charge is grounded away. Everything will just feel right. It's better if you get the grounded and externally powered VL805, because it actually has a ground cable going through. Molex don't get the SATA ones. And here's the thing, when your CPU is pulling like 1 volt and dropping say point something volts to ground, as technology shrinks in size, we are dropping the voltage over and over and over, but we're not improving the ground. Say if the background voltage is 0.1 volts, right, and a really bad example, 0.1 volts background voltage will cause a lot of issues if you're running at, say, 1 volt than if you're running at 2 volts. In fact, now you're going from 5% of the voltage to about 10% of the voltage, which is going to cause really, really big issues if the digital register is not working properly, or the CPU, I don't know if you've tried calculators with really low voltage, but the time scale is kind of just deduced and reduced on that kind of material.
One down. 3 down.
Yeah, this is a cable.
4 down.
People are not even looking at me now when I'm shooting them, which is really indicated that you now have some sort of server advantage, or have fully resolved any of your input lag, and desync. Mostly desync here in this case, but also input lag. It has a side effect of that too. I'm now on like a 10 kill streak or even more. Some simple tweaks, and I die. See us. Oh. Oh, the bloke's on 60 ping! If you don't know, 60 ping in Valorant is the effect of 100 ping in CSGO. But it's a lot more. The way the lag compensation works is that it averages around maybe 30-40 ping, or whatever the highest ping is on the server. We'll try to do some strange median ping where it will center everything around, which is really good for the person on 30-40 ping, really bad for the person on 10 ping, and really bad for the person on 200 ping. And this is out of Riot's own map, so they do some strange lag compensation to make the game fairer for people who are on, well, worse internet. So I think recently they had an update, maybe a month or two back, where they changed the variables of how much they compensated it by, and at where the point of compensation actually was. So this jet is playing a totally different game to me. Watch me just pick these guys apart.
4 down.
Registration is perfect, hit reg is clean, input lag is nearly non-existent. Finally she gets me once. Bro, please. very controllable, guys, to the point where I can just crouch and spray.
3 down.
Just kill everything. I mean, I'm 38 to 13 here.
1 kill remaining.
Get reg or really, really bad input lag. Good luck.
Now
But here you go, that's what you want to see. If you listen to the speakers, no hit delay. 0 hit delay. This is Winkley signing out. Ground your PC, shield your PC, make sure your case is thick enough sheet metal. And also try out the new tweaks. Back up your Windows. First thing, back up your Windows. Don't blame me if your NVMe crashes because, oh no, I accidentally set the MSI mode to something else that it doesn't support. Alright guys, don't forget to drop a like or I'll drop your ground potential, so all that is to it. Take care.